And welcome back to the Sporting Lounge. Thank you very much for tuning back in. Today is November
You.
28th, 2023. And here with your gracious host, Austin. Let's give him a round of applause for him, boys. And yours
Wait, hold on.
truly, Derpamation, Shane, whatever you want to call me, uh, over here at twitch.tv/Derpamation. Don't forget to give us a like, a follow, a sub, whatever you want to do. We appreciate the support. And today we are going. That was so fucking late, bro. That
It
was
was supposed to be
so
after.
fucking.
It was after. After.
Today we are going to be diving into a few topics. So, starting off with college football news, Michigan Wolverines go ahead and take down the Ohio State Buckeyes. They go ahead and claim their spot at number 2 going into the Big Ten championship against Iowa. Bulldogs are going into the SEC championship against Alabama. Washington is going for the Pac championship against Oregon. And who's Florida State playing real quick? Louisville. Okay. So all of them are valuable wins as well. But we were talking a little bit before we went live on what teams we thought were possible to swing all the way back up and maybe steal a spot in this top 4 to make a run at the national championship. So why don't you lead us off with that?
Which part?
I don't know, like Michigan, Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia.
So
like Washington, Oregon.
I think Ohio State's pretty much out of it at this point. They would need Michigan and Florida State to lose to be in it.
Yep.
Or potentially Michigan, or not really Michigan. Florida State and Washington to lose.
What about Georgia? Do you think Georgia has any application to this?
I think Georgia would fall to 4. I think because they'd be losing to a good Alabama team. So I think they fall to 4. But I don't think they necessarily fall out of it. They'll still get some love. They'll fall to 4.
If what about Michigan Alabama? Loses, do you think they could climb up to the 4?
No, because if Oregon wins, then I think they give the bump to Oregon and Ohio State. If Washington and Florida State lose, I think they give the bump to Oregon and Ohio State. But the other thing I could see possibly happening is if Texas beats Oklahoma State, and then like Washington and Florida State lose, they could give it to Oregon and Texas over Ohio State, which I could also see happening.
I think Alabama. If Alabama beat Georgia, I don't think there's a way you can't put them in the top 4.
But if Oregon, if Oregon and Texas win, they make a pretty strong argument as well.
That's true. But Alabama's only loss is to Texas. So, like, what if Texas loses?
Yeah.
They go down to 11-2.
Maybe. But if Texas wins, in a way, they kind of have that tiebreaker over Alabama. So I could see them getting the nod over them. Yeah. Just like if Michigan lost and it was between Michigan and Ohio State, I could see it going to Michigan because they kind of have that, in a way, tiebreaker over Ohio State.
Yeah.
So I won't be surprised either way. The top 4, I think, is pretty much in flux at the moment, right? We could see some pretty dramatic shifts, especially if teams lose, or if all the teams lose. That'd be pretty wild and it's never happened, but it could happen. What if they do? Okay, let me ask you this: if all 4 teams lose, what is your predicted top 4?
I gotta go. I think Michigan holds in at number 4. I think Oregon slides to 3. I think Texas is 1 and Bama 2.
I like that. Texas 1, Bama 2.
I think it would be that dramatic of a shit. And the thing is, like, I think you hit it right on the head. Like, you can't put Ohio State over Michigan because Michigan lost the extra game because they already beat Ohio State. They got that tiebreaker. So, like, you know, they had
Michigan would have to lose bad.
Yeah.
Michigan would have to lose bad.
Yeah.
For Ohio State to get put over them.
Yeah, it had to be embarrassing.
Right. Exactly.
So, like, I just don't see that happening. So, like, in the case scenario Michigan loses, like, I think that they're the team that would get the pass because, like, in the same breath of you saying that about Ohio State, well, you can't put Georgia over Bama if Bama beats them.
I mean, I get it.
And then, like, in the same breath, then, like, you know, Texas goes ahead and gets the win against Oklahoma State. It's a valuable win. They're at 12-1. And Alabama only lost to what team? So I think that's how it stack up. If that was the case scenario that happened this weekend.
Yeah. I get it. I'm not against it. I'm just interested to see what happens this weekend. That's going to tell us a lot. Like, if all 4 teams do, that'd be kind of. I would hate to be the playoff committee.
Yeah.
But next year we're not going to have to really worry about this as much because they're going to 12-team format.
Yeah.
Too as well. So it'll be a lot different.
Thank you for the sub 7/8, by the way. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So kind.
Yes. That transitions us into our next topic I want to touch on real quick. Red Wings acquire NHL Greatest 100 Player list nominee, or list participant, I should say, Patrick Kane.
Oh, spicy.
35 years old, in the twilight of his career, was his integral piece to that Blackhawks offense back when they got 3 chips in 2008, 2010, 2012, I believe, or 2010, 2012, 2014. I can't remember. It's one of those off the back of my hand. Sorry. But it was one of those Blackhawks.
1 year, $2.7 million deal.
Yep. He was an MVP for a season. Also got most valuable player for his win in 2012. He has that infamous goal against the Flyers. Mm-hmm. Very prolific player. You know, more of like, he's still good. Like, you know, hockey players in their mid-30s are still good. I think he'll add like a good veteran presence to the team. And with his team being so young, getting a guy like that to go ahead and lock up that wing, I think is going to be very integral for a team that is all of a sudden having a very positive season at 11-6-3. You know, they're like only 3 games behind right now, you know, like from first place. So it's anybody's game right now.
Better than they have been doing in the past, for sure.
Yeah.
Because usually we're used to seeing them towards the bottom of the Atlantic Division or the conference.
Yeah. So I'm excited about this.
How important do you think he's going to be to the team?
I think like his play time, like what he does on the ice, is going to be like integral. I think it's going to be like a B level role player. I don't think he's going to be at his A level just because of his age. And we've seen him regress. He's coming off injury as well. And that's a big reason that he was not going back with the Rangers, you know. And of course he signs right before the Red Wings play the Rangers. So like, it's just like, hey, we're coming to town. You want to come on the plane back type of deal? And it's just like, there you go.
Like, sure. I guess. Yep, why not?
That's it. Yeah. And, you know, it's kind of funny. You know, I think he's past his prime, but he's still going to be a very valuable player. And the thing is, like, that veteran presence as someone who's won those chips, someone who's been an integral player, who's someone who's been humble, someone who is that leader, like that Blackhawks offense back in the 2010s was menacing. And a big reason was because he just be able to shoot the puck from anywhere, so very, very good signing. I'm very happy with it. And I think it's a piece that might put him over the edge. Like, we might be looking back at it in like 3-4 months and be like, that Kane signing, that was the piece that changed it all. That's the piece that made it from the Red Wings were good to the Red Wings were great. And I wouldn't be surprised if this signing was that.
Okay, so you think this is kind of like a pivotal moment, essentially. Something we're going to look back on when the season's over.
Yeah, because you got to realize what's been added. It's not just a player that is good. It's a player that's been there. It's a player that's, like, relevant still. Like, think of it as almost like a Bobby Wagner in the NFL or, a Von Miller. You're getting two things when you're signing this player. You're getting a really good player that's in the twilight of their career, but, they're still worth that big bag because of what they're bringing to your younger players, too. They're bringing that winning mentality. It's an extra coach in the locker room. And that's really good for this Detroit team that's so fucking young.
Like, I mean, sometimes all that makes a difference is that veteran presence. And I think a lot of times that's understated how important that is.
Yeah.
And this might be something that proves that.
And they got him on a cheap-ass deal, too.
Yeah, $2.7 million.
Yeah.
Not bad for a year.
No.
I mean, pretty cushy for a guy that's close to retiring. Shoot.
Hey, and, the thing is, like, as I said, he already got nominated to the NHL Greatest 100 Players list. He's already on it, bro, and he's an active player.
Yeah, and he's top 10 currently in points and goals.
Yep.
He's like fourth most active for goals and sixth most for points. Active wise, which is crazy. Real quick,
Detroit.
NFL news real quick before we skip to that. Jonathan Taylor's undergoing thumb surgery. So he's going to be out for the foreseeable future. And then also David Tepper, the owner of the Panthers, would not comment on why he fired Frank Reich, but defended his stance or reasoning, I guess, for drafting Bryce Young, which I thought was pretty interesting.
What do you think of that whole Frank Reich situation, man?
Oh gosh, I'm a pretty firm believer in coaches deserve at least 2 years, 3 years.
Yeah,
because before they hired him, the Panthers, I think, and I think you would agree, were in a pretty bad spot.
Yeah,
so like, I get it. They're 1-10. It was a very, very poor season, but they also didn't make a lot of moves in the offseason either to help the situation out. They drafted Bryce Young. They signed Adam Thielen, which I think were their two biggest moves that at least I can think of at the moment. But I don't think they really did anything to help the situation. So I think the firing was unnecessary, but I'm not surprised about it. They should at least waited to, I think, next year.
I think, like, you hit it right on the head because, like, what you just did was, like, Frank Reich, like, in the public eye, gets, like, 2 years. Like, we get one bad season. Oh, everybody has a bad first season, whatever.
Yeah.
In the public eye, you're not getting pressure from your fans yet. You might start hearing mumbles and shit, but that doesn't mean you just press the big red button. Look what the Steelers just did, which we'll get into that. But, like, look how long the Steelers held on to Matt Canada. Like,
yeah,
that's what good organizations do, is they trust their coaches and they hold on to them. Look at an organization like the Lions. Up till recently, they give up on their coaches almost immediately. They finally hold on to Dan Campbell for a bad season, and then all of a sudden now they're looking like they're building a fucking dynasty in the fucking Motor City.
Yeah, because this is what his third year, right?
Yeah, and his first season was ass.
Second season was a little better. It improves.
Yeah.
I think they got 7 or 8 wins, maybe 9. I can't remember.
I think it was 9.
Yeah, but then this year they're looking like a top 3 team in NFC, about to win the division. So it's like you can't cut the cord too quick. You can't pull the cord too quick.
Yep.
And I think a lot of owners feel like they have to, when in reality they don't. They just need to make bigger moves, better moves in the offseason through free agency and the draft.
Because, like, at the end of the day, look at the Hugh Jackson experiment in Cleveland. Those 2 seasons were miserable, but look at the profits you got out of it on the other end. Like, Cleveland has a very talented roster built now because of that Hugh Jackson era. If Hugh Jackson wasn't the coach for those 2 seasons, they don't have the pieces that they have right now. They just don't, And, like, Baker probably shouldn't have left Cleveland. Now we're looking back on it with rose-colored glasses. Cleveland probably should have re-signed Baker. And Baker probably should have been their franchise quarterback. That's probably how it should have went. Especially what we're seeing with Deshaun Watson. Yeah.
He would have been cheaper.
And he would have been better than Watson has been. Because say what you will about Baker. I'm not a big Baker Mayfield fan, but he's better than what Watson has produced on the field. And you can only say one thing for sure about Baker. And that's he's competitive and he's gritty for it. Like, he's a gritty fucking guy. He's the type of quarterback that will grind your game out and get you a win in a game manager style. He's gritty, and when you got a guy like Nick Chubb in your backfield, forbidding injury, where we're looking at that full roster, a guy that's coming on like Jerome Ford, and you got Kareem Hunt back, you got Amari Cooper, imagine what Baker could have done with that offense. Look at what he's doing with the Buccaneers. He's not elite, but that Browns defense is way better than that Bucs defense. And a lot of times you're not really putting the losses hat on Baker's head.
Yeah, Baker's been above average. He's been a serviceable quarterback.
Do you think Deshaun Watson has been above average?
Let's look this up real quick because I don't think he has.
I don't think so either.
I'm just going to pull up the stats real quick. Let's see. All right. So Deshaun Watson, he is 61.4% completion, 1,100 yards, 7 touchdowns, 4 interceptions.
So about as average as you could get.
Yeah. So he's teetering that line of like above average, below average. I'd say right at
perfectly average. Perfectly average.
Yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah.
All right, Shane. Why don't you lead us into our first game?
Packers, Lions, Thanksgiving. I predicted the Lions were going to win 34-14. I was wrong. The Packers stuck it to him, and it looks like Jordan Love's finally coming on.
The last couple of weeks, he has been playing a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
He is getting more players involved, I would say. He's making better reads, better decisions.
Do you think it's too late for the Packers to turn it around, though?
I hate to say it, but it just depends. It depends on how the teams above them do. Mm-hmm. But I don't think they could still get 5 more wins and potentially make the playoffs, right? 5-6 more wins and make the playoffs. That's not out of the realm of possibilities. Unlikely, but not out of the realm. Because right now they're 8th. Right now they're 8th.
They got the Chiefs next week. So let's say they lose that game. But then, check it. Giants, Buccaneers, Panthers, Vikings, Bears.
5 wins right there.
Very
depending on how the Vikings and Seahawks do over that same span, that could be enough to bump them up.
Yeah.
Right? Because even if the
Crazy.
Vikings they overtake the Vikings, right? That puts them in the 7th seed. That's the playoff.
Mm-hmm.
So the Packers are very much in it, right? They're not out of it yet.
Especially Jordan Love comes on and he keeps on performing like this, man. I mean, Jordan Love was putting on a clinic against that Lions defense, man. And that Lions defense has proven sound this season. And then all of a sudden, they're just getting picked apart all day.
Right. And then underneath the Packers are the Rams and the Saints at 9 and 10. Mm-hmm. But the Packers own the tiebreak over both of them. So that even accounting for that kind of contributes to the fact that the Packers could still very much be in the playoffs, right? That they're not out of it yet because they own that tiebreak.
Yeah, for wild card seeding.
Mm-hmm. So they don't need the Seahawks to do bad. They just need one of them.
Yeah. Yeah, they just need one to catch up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, on the Lions side of the ball, you know, like it wasn't like they were bad, but Jared Goff just those 3 fumbles lost just really fucking hurt him.
It was like he had no pocket awareness.
Yeah.
You know, when I was watching the game, he was holding onto the ball way too long. He seemed like, and he didn't really know where to go with it.
Yeah, it seemed like, you know, the Packers have a sneaky good defense, man. They're really good at dropping guys into zone coverage and exotic schemes and really getting guys to hold onto the ball for that extra half a second. You know,
and that's all that matters. That half a second really, 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 really matters. So, like, and it was what I thought was really cool about the Packers is they played very good secondary, but they blitzed at the right times. I felt like at the exact right moment they blitzed, and on those blitzes when he fumbled. You know, because
Rashawn Gary looked like a superstar.
Rashawn Gary was impressive. He had a strip sack, you know, late in the game. So, like, a lot of credit, I don't think enough credit is really going towards that Packers defense because they stopped a very high-powered Detroit offense in that game.
They fucking did. They definitely did. You know, Rashawn Gary has really been coming into his own this season. You know, he's at 8.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles. You know, we're not talking about Defensive Player of the Year talks yet, but the guy's 25. They got him at a young age. And, you know, you almost want him to have, like, a season like this right when he's about to re-sign so you don't have to pay him that TJ Watt-like bag.
Right.
you get to pay him, you know, more of a Bud Dupree type bag, you know.
Right.
You know, we ain't talking about 25% of our cap salary. We're only talking about 12%.
Right, but like,
and
if you start Jared Goff, you're kind of a little upset because he had those 3 fumbles, but also had 2 touchdowns, so it kind of saved his day a little bit. If you start David Montgomery, you're happy because he had 71 yards and a touchdown, so he had about 13.1 points. And then Amon-Ra, of course, I think is an every week start. He had himself a nice little day. But Khalif Raymond was kind of the surprise. 5 catches, 90 yards. So he had a pretty good fantasy day as well at about 13
Sam
points.
Laporta looking like a top 3 tight end again.
Sam Laporta having himself a nice little day. You know, because he had, almost 14 points. So he had a pretty good day. You had a lot of Detroit receivers and a couple of running backs having a pretty good fantasy day.
Jahmyr Gibbs still proving to be a valuable flex.
Yeah, 11 carries, 54 yards. No touchdowns, but he had some
19 yards.
Yeah, but he had some receiving works, right? So he helped it out and he made it a little bit better. Jordan Love, you're happy to start because they had 3 touchdowns and I believe no turnovers. So you're cool with that. The Green Bay running backs, nothing really of note. You had A.J. Dillon, 14 carries for 43 yards, which we kind of foresaw, right? Because Aaron Jones was out. And then Christian Watson kind of exploding a little bit, 5 catches, 94 yards, and a touchdown. And which is really, I mean, the only wide receiver of note. But, I mean, Jaden Reed had himself a touchdown catch, which saved his fantasy day. Because before that, he only had 3 catches for 20-some yards.
Yeah.
But then he got that touchdown.
Do you feel comfortable starting Watson this week moving forward?
Not really. Granted,
Yeah,
I mean he's had a touchdown the past 2 weeks, but before that he had 2 receptions, 23 yards, 1 reception, 37 yards, 3 receptions, 33 yards. So like he hasn't been consistent enough for me to want to start him.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, for me personally, I like 3 weeks of consistency before I'm gonna actually like plug you like every week, kind of plug you in.
Here's my stat that makes me feel a little bit more comfortable with him being a start at wide receiver 2 moving forward. In both of his last games, yep. He has at least 1 touchdown. So we're starting to see flame catch, right? In his last 5 games, 3 of those games he's been targeted at least 7 times.
He do be getting targeted.
One of those games,
so the potential
was against the Steelers when he got locked down by JPJ. Just saying, he got locked down by a rookie. By a rookie, you know, we'll get into that later, but he got locked down by a rookie.
No one cares about that rookie.
With that being said, you know, like with the targets being there, realistically, like I wouldn't be surprised to see him get 50, 60 plus yards consistently. Not this 94-yard type performance consistently, but 60 yards with the upside of a touchdown definitely makes him an attractive pickup.
The potential's there, and I get it. But for me, it's just like that potential versus consistent fantasy points, right? I don't know what it is about, but I like to see those consistent performances with, 12 plus fantasy points. Not really just targets, because how good were those targets? How many of them were catchable?
Right.
How many of them were just Jordan Love scrambling and throwing in the direction of Christian Watson, which counts as a target?
Sure.
So that's just my hesitation with it. That's kind of what it boils down to for me.
I think with Jordan Love coming into his own too, I think these last couple of weeks we've seen it. I think even we could say these last 4 weeks, one of those games was against a tough Steelers defense. Like, just I'm not circling on the Steelers because they're my team, but because like actually last 4 weeks they played against a tough Steelers defense. He still looked pretty good. And he's looked really good the last 4 weeks. And in his worst performance against a good defense, he still looked pretty good.
Right.
So, like, that's why I'm feeling more comfortable with Jordan Love. And with him at the helm, like, things could start cooking for Christian Watson, especially if they believe that they could get back in the playoffs. You know, it just depends on where the heart of that locker room is, I think.
Yeah, plus, I mean, they're kind of getting hot at the right time, right? That could be what it is, which then leads to more fantasy production, potentially. That possibility going way up. So you could be right. The Chiefs, and plus they got a matchup against the Chiefs, which could be a blowout, or not really a blowout, but like a high scoring affair.
Yeah.
Or at least more pass attempts. Yeah. More pass attempts, but then leads to more points potentially. So I get it, especially against the Chiefs. It's not a bad play.
Yeah. Leading us into an actual blowout. Cowboys, Commanders, 45-10. I had Cowboys 27-10. So, what you thinking here?
Oof.
Sam Howell.
I thought it was going to be a closer game.
I did too. 27-10.
You know,
still 3%.
I don't think Sam Howell played bad, but the Cowboys offense just played that much better and overpowered that defense.
Do you think the Cowboys are that good right now?
Kind of.
Do you think that they are better than the 49ers?
But I mean, we've seen them be good in the regular season and just collapse in the playoffs. Right. So 49ers, no.
Eagles?
I don't. Eagles. I okay. We'll just set this right now. I think I think it goes Eagles, 49ers, Lions, Cowboys.
I think, man, I think you're right. I want to put the Cowboys higher.
With those top three being almost interchangeable.
Yeah.
Right, because I think each of those top three teams have something the other team doesn't. In a way, so it's like if you wanted to say the Lions were number one and 49, however you want to rank it, I'm not going to be mad about it because I could see the argument either way for either three of those teams being number one.
I just think the Cowboys had the best defense out of all of them. I think Micah Parsons is really that difference maker.
I do too. I just don't trust the Cowboys offense.
That's fair.
Well, mainly Dak Prescott.
Hey, Dak Prescott, he's been playing like ass for the last 3 or 4 weeks, last 5 games. 331 yards, 68.8% completion, 4 touchdowns, 0 picks, no sacks. Last week, 65.8% completion on 189 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, no sacks. Week before that, 404 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 pick, no sacks. 74.3% completion rate. Week before that, 374 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 picks, 5 sacks. Against a good Eagles defense. And then week before that, 304 yards, 80.7% completion rate, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception, 3 sacks. I mean, that's MVP type numbers for these last 5 games.
Right. Where would you rank him Where would you rank him in the MVP consideration?
Probably 3rd.
Who's 1 and 2 then?
Patrick Mahomes and CJ Stroud. I don't know. CJ Stroud is starting to lose ground, though, especially with his loss to Jacksonville this week. But we'll get into that game momentarily. Commanders, Cowboys, you feel good if you start any Cowboys players that, had the name Prescott, Tony Pollard, Brandon Cooks, CeeDee Lamb. On the other side of the ball, Curtis Samuel was a good start, breaking in almost 19 points. If you had the 100-yard bonus in your league, that's 24-point week.
Yeah, I was sad I sat him. Seeing that 24 points on my bench made me kind of sad.
Yep, bro. 100%. Sam Howell was still a solid start. 14 points total. Nothing great, but all right. And Brian Robinson, I think, is still a comfortable start at running back position. Just
a bad week.
Just rough week against a good Dallas Cowboys defense. I think the Cowboys are starting to become a defense that you just don't want to start against unless you are an elite team like the Eagles, like the San Francisco 49ers, like the Dolphins. If you're not one of those teams, I wouldn't start anybody against them because you're just not going to get points. That leads me to that final game of that Thanksgiving day. Is an NFC heavyweight matchup. NFC West on the line. Seahawks win this game. They move up to first place. And they fucking blow it bad in an ugly fashion.
Absolutely do.
31-13.
Absolutely blow it.
Yep.
I mean, I kind of didn't think they'd win it anyways. Because I have such a love for the 49ers at the moment, and really Brock Purdy. He played a decent game. He was good enough for them to win. Right? He managed the game well. He made decent decisions. 21 of 30, 1 touchdown, 1 interception.
Sometimes that's all you need, man. Especially when you got CMC running behind you getting 6 yards a carry, 2 touchdowns.
Yeah. So you don't need to rely on your.
The impressive thing to me about CMC was his longest carry was 27 yards. That dude was actually just toting the rock like 6 yards a carry. Just legit. They couldn't stop him.
It's not like he had an 80-yard touchdown run that accounted for most of his yards.
Nope.
He had one chunk play of 27 yards.
He just grinded them, bro. And of course, his receiving efficiency out of the backfield too. 5 receptions, 25 yards.
I mean,
fucking love it.
Do you think CMC is the most important player on their offense?
Yes. Yes.
By wide margin?
Okay, check this out. Panthers were a borderline playoff team last year when they had CMC.
Mm-hmm.
Look at what they've been since they lost CMC.
True. And they were
and then also
Chuba Hubbard.
Look at how good San Francisco looks with him. He's getting a touchdown every game. If we were just to put it in baseball term, yeah. He made up for it. He got 2 this week. Whatever. The streak's lost, but whatever. But, if CMC goes down, this San Francisco offense is just a different beast. And it's not a scary one. You can't pack 6 in the box when you're playing against CMC because he'll just stretch you out.
That man has vision. He's agile. He'll go inside and then bust it outside if you cram it. So he is, I would argue, their most important offensive player. And without them, like you said, they're a different beast, and it's not pretty. Yeah. So for them to have that Super Bowl run like we think they're going to have, they need CMC to be healthy. They need him. Mm-hmm. Without him, I don't think they stand much of a chance.
Neither do I.
Why did the browsing just stop recording?
I don't know. Just in baseball terms, win above replacement. I think CMC has the highest win above replacement for any player in the NFL right now at any position.
Mm-hmm.
I think so. I think that's how valuable he is.
All right, keep talking. I'm gonna reload the page.
All right. So that leads me into our next game. So we're getting into Sunday football. Dolphins visit the New York Jets. And technical difficulties, huh?
There it goes. I'm back.
Hi. Tim Boyle matching off with Tua Tagovailoa. Both of them post a similar stat line, especially fantasy-wise. But the final score was much different because one offense is very talented around the quarterback position, and the other one isn't. And we're starting to see that. Do you think Breece Hall is all that?
I do. I still have faith in him. Mm-hmm. I just think the Jets are kind of doing him dirty, right? They're not sticking to the run long enough.
I agree.
8 carries among Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook is not enough. They should getting at least that. Not all 20 has to go to them, but combined they should be getting at least 20 carries.
That's true.
If they are, the Jets, I think, are a much better team when they lean more on the run. They don't do that enough.
Yeah.
And really every game we've watched this season. So, I mean, I still believe in Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook as running backs. They're both great, both super talented. Potentially the best running back room in the league talent-wise. They just need to run more. They need to give them the ball more. And I think it's ridiculous that they don't.
Breece Hall did have 14 touches this game for only 49 yards.
Right.
So, I mean, he is getting
7 receptions.
Yeah.
Yes, in the receiving game, right? But this past game, but running-wise, the Jets are a better team when they don't have to solely rely on that quarterback to make plays.
I agree.
And that's why
Jalen Waddle put on a clinic. 8
he
receptions, 114 yards, no TDs, but on 8 targets, 8 receptions, that looks pretty good.
They do be looking pretty solid.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give them that. They do be looking pretty solid.
Tyreek is quietly, for some reason, on pace to just break the single-season receiving yard record, and it seems like no one's talking about it.
It's just one of those things that's going quietly unnoticed.
Yeah.
It sounds like, and I kind of love it.
What do you think Tyreek needs to do to get into MVP conversation?
Oh God, I think he should be, right? Because he's on track to have 2,046 yards, 15 touchdowns this year.
Only wide receiver to ever have over 2,000 yards if he does complete it.
Yeah, and if he does, why wouldn't he be in that conversation at least at the minimum?
Mm-hmm.
To me, he should almost win it at that point.
Yeah, like only player in NFL history, only wide receiver, only player in NFL history to have over 2,000 yards. Only receiver.
Do you think he should win it at that point?
Yeah, honestly. Like, have we seen a wide receiver be this dominant ever?
Not really. Not in recent memory. At least,
like,
you know.
Okay.
Well, we saw Cooper
brain.
Kupp. We saw Cooper Kupp a few years ago, who was close to breaking the record.
It seemed like he had more MVP relevance than Tyreek does.
And then before that, Calvin Johnson.
Antonio Brown had a moment there.
Yeah.
Then Larry Fitz had a moment there. Then Calvin Johnson, of course, who currently holds the single season record. Terrell Owens. And here's my question. Do we put this Tyreek season above all of those seasons? If at the end of the season he finishes out projected.
If he breaks the record, I don't see how he can't. Because the record speaks for itself.
Yeah.
I would argue.
But Calvin didn't get the year that he broke the record.
No, and that's just an unfortunate thing with being a wide receiver. You're not going to get that love. Right?
Yeah. I mean, it's just so crazy.
It's one of those things where, like, it's kind of like college with the Heisman. Usually, most of the time, it's going to go to the quarterback and not really any other player. Unless that player does so far and beyond great that they're almost forced to give it to them.
Is this so far and beyond great? The first player to ever break 2,000 receiving yards?
I would say so, but the voters, I don't think, are going to.
Yeah.
For the voters,
I think, honestly, he needs 2,200 yards. I think that's what he has to get it. Because right now the argument is, well, he has an extra game. He needs to have, like, a couple 200, 300-yard games this season. Like, just obscene stat.
Mm-hmm.
And I recognize it's not realistic, but neither is a wide receiver getting MVP. So the demand I have is probably what they're looking at. You know, if Tyreek goes out and has a couple 200-yard games, you have to really consider it.
Yeah, but I mean, like, at the least, he has to be in that consideration or that conversation, like a finalist or something, you know?
Yeah, and, like, here's a question. Is Tua a better quarterback than Patrick Mahomes?
No. I think Tua has better weapons right now.
But Patrick had the same weapons at the same age range.
Yeah, I think Tua is still slightly worse than Patrick.
I agree, but I just wanted to entertain it.
You could have that conversation of Tua being better. I just don't think it's. I think you could argue.
I don't think it's realistic yet.
Yeah, I think you could argue it's close. If he wins a chip, then it's going to shut a lot of people up about him.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think we're there yet.
I agree. But yeah, Dolphins, Jets. Any last statements on this one?
No, I mean, it kind of went how I expected it to go.
Yep, I didn't 28-13.
Yeah, I didn't think it was going to be a close game by any means. Kind of surprised they didn't score more points, honestly.
Yep.
I mean, obviously, if you started Jalen Waddle or Tyreek Hill, you're happy. If you started anyone on the Jets, you're kind of upset. Kind of what it comes down to.
Yeah. So, next game, NFC South matchup for the division crown of the shit king pile. Oh, we're talking about two shit teams decking it out to see who could get a fucking top 4 playoff seed for some reason. Just fuck it, because why not?
Wild to think about.
Yeah. We got teams like the Vikings that might not get in, while one of these teams are going to have home field advantage.
I hate things. It's so funny to think about.
The Seahawks might not get in, but the Falcons going to have home field advantage.
Bro, why though?
That's just how it is, bro. That's how God made it.
It's so baffling to me.
Yeah, this game was baffling to me. Just a game of pathetic offensive performance on both sides of the ball. Bijan had a good game. Kamara looked like Alvin Kamara, auto lock start on both sides, obviously, duh.
Yeah.
Chris Olave, obviously a lock. Drake London wouldn't have himself a decent game. Kyle Pitts looking like Kyle Pitts, worth about 4 points. And that's about it. Desmond Ridder, Derek Carr. Derek Carr is still that super flex start, the bye week start type guy, but Desmond Ridder, no change in impact on how I view him. Just not a guy I ever want to start. Bijan looked like Bijan. Tyler looked like Tyler. Drake London looked like Drake London. Chris Olave looked like Chris Olave. Alvin Kamara looked like Alvin Kamara. Derek Carr looked like Derek Carr. There wasn't much to say. Falcons won. They're currently leading the NFC South. Do you have anything you want to say on this game?
It cracks me up that a 5-6 team is leading the division and that a potential team that finishes under 500 or just at 500 could make it to the playoffs
with home field advantage. Not just make the playoffs, but have home field advantage in the playoffs.
Yeah, being the highest. Kudos to them for being in a weak division. NFC South. So it's like not surprising.
It's so crazy.
Kind of it is very crazy because they
the Panthers aren't out of it.
The Falcons by all means did not. They are out of it. Let's not kid ourselves.
Mathematically, they're not. Panthers win their next 6 straight, and Falcons and New Orleans just drop. They're in, bro. That Frank Reich firing might get the fire under their ass. They get to 7 wins. All of a sudden, the Panthers are making a run for the Super Bowl. Bryce Young is the best rookie quarterback of all time.
What if that did happen, bro? That'd be absolutely fucking wild.
NFL scriptwriters, if you're listening,
script that into the story, please. What if they did that and then made it to the Super Bowl?
I'd cry, bro. There ain't no way though. This Panthers team is so ass. Imagine being the Bears in that situation. Right now, you're sitting there rubbing your hands, licking your chomps. You got the number 1 overall pick, and then the Panthers get you the 32nd overall pick. Bro, I'd be pissed.
I'd be so mad.
What the fuck?
Because they're planning for that top 2 pick right now.
Bro. Bears front office just high fiving each other. They're like, we got Marvin Harrison, or they should be. Bears draft Marvin Harrison Jr. Please. It's the right play.
Knowing the Bears, though, they might not do that. They probably do something dumb.
They are. Speaking of, talent in Ohio, it wasn't relevant while the Steelers visited the jungle.
They got lucky.
Bro, shut the fuck up.
Why?
Because first game without Matt Canada, the Steelers have over 400 yards for the first time in 58 games.
Yeah, but they only scored 16 points.
Yeah. The points will come later, but we got the dub.
I mean, that's all that matters. That's all that matters. So
yeah. Najee looking like fucking Jerome Bettis, looking like a fucking monster.
15 carries, 99 yards, and
Dude,
a touchdown.
Did you see him trucking fuckers, man?
He looked like a new man out there.
Yeah. It was like Najee just was taking half the season off. Once Matt Canada got fired, he's like, all right, let's go. Strap up. Give me the fucking ball. ISO me. And then, dude, there was a play where he's running down the middle of the field, and he gets choked up at the line. It's about a 2-3 yard game. But all of a sudden, the pile just starts moving, dude. And then he just breaks through and gets like another 6 or 7 yards, gets the fucking first down, and just having people just yanking on him. He's not going down.
I'm telling you,
bro. I'm telling you, bro. It was insane. And what was I saying at the beginning of the season? If the Steelers go ahead and play their offense smart, Pat Freiermuth is going to be a top 5 tight end. Pat Freiermuth comes out without Matt Canada calling these plays. All of a sudden, 9 receptions, 120 yards. Well, holy fuck. What the fuck? Where did this come from, dude?
Kenny decided to finally throw him the ball. That's what happened. Nothing to do with Matt Canada.
I hate you so much right now, bro. No, because it's literally down to the fundamentals of the scheme calling. Like, they're hitting the middle of the field. They're hitting the deep cross routes and the cover twos. You remember I was talking about that like a week or two ago? I was like, they never run in between the cover two. They never run that seam. Pat Freiermuth is hitting that seam, and he has a 120-yard game. You got George Pickens and Deontay Johnson stretching out the outside. You're making it so they have to respect your passing game. And when you do that, you get over 400 yards, which the Steelers fucking did. TJ Watt goes ahead and claims back the rightful title of sack leader in the NFL, 14.5 after 2 sacks this week. Steelers defense looked fucking dominant. Ja'Marr Chase was a saving grace for the Bengals. They probably would have gotten shut out if it wasn't for Ja'Marr Chase having those 2 receptions off tip passes.
He did Ja'Marr Chase things.
He did do Ja'Marr Chase things. Jake
4
Browning,
catches, 81 yards. Not bad.
Jake Browning isn't a comfortable start for me, personally. I'm not trying to start him.
Desperation.
Kenny Pickett's a good QB2 in Superflex right now. I think he's going to be consistent, 10 to 15 points.
Not bad.
So, Joe Mixon had a bad game. Not much to talk about there. I think Najee is worth a lot right now. I think Jaylen Warren is worth a lot. If you can get that handcuff, if you have one piece of the puzzle, try to get the other piece, because it's going to be one of those situations where one of them is going to go off every week, and then the next week it's going to be the other one, and you just pick your poison. But it's a good handcuff situation because at least one of them is going to get a touchdown. And combined, they're going to have like 150, 200 yards.
If you had to pick one of them, though, who are you picking?
Before last week, Jaylen Warren. After this week, if Najee plays like this is a Najee we trust. This all season, I came up with this moniker saying, "In Najee we trust, in Najee we trust, in Naj we trust," and this is in Najee we trust. This is the type of shit that we're talking about. When he's grinding the fucking ball, punching people in the fucking mouth, you're going to win a lot of football games like that, and that's exactly what Najee did. If Najee plays like this is who I want. This is what that 3rd round pick in the fantasy draft is worth.
Right.
You get to pick between Najee Harris or Jonathan Taylor in the 3rd round. This is the type of Najee that we're expecting to see when you're taking him that high.
This is the Najee you want to see. Yeah, exactly. This is what you hope to see, but I mean, it took a while to get here. So if you traded him, you hope he keeps doing bad. But if you have him, you hope he keeps doing good.
Yes, sir.
Basically.
So I predicted the Steelers were going to win this game 23-17. I was a little bit off. But we move on to our next game. Panthers, Titans. Panthers remain in the single win column. Mayo Man gets another dub for the Titans. Tennessee's pretty much out of the playoff picture, and so is Carolina. Just a shit bowl game. Any highlights you want to come off this game?
I mean, I think the only highlight really is Derrick Henry. 18 carries, 76 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
Yep.
And then Chuba Hubbard, I mean, he saved his fantasy day with that 1 touchdown run. And then he also had the 5 receptions for 47 yards. Right. So he had himself a pretty good day. Better than what he's been doing in the past.
Mm-hmm.
It was an ugly game to watch. Right. No offenses. Neither one of them looked like they're comfortable or could really get anything going. And then the Titans just somehow got another touchdown because of Derrick Henry, right? So,
yeah,
it was a boring game to watch. There's not a whole lot to really talk about with this game besides the 2 players, Chuba Hubbard and Derrick Henry.
Yep.
Bryce Young played decent, 18-31, 194. Will Levy, 18 for 28, 185. Neither one of them really played bad, but neither one of them really played good either. So,
yeah, that's kind of where I was with it.
Yeah. If you watched it, you're like, what the hell's going on? These are 2 high school teams.
Yeah, it feels like that.
Kind of thing.
It feels like it's a matchup for the first overall pick.
Yeah, it was just a very boring game to watch. But I'm happy the Titans got the dub because I like Will Levis.
Yep.
So I think that just helps him to continue being the starter going forward, especially going into next year. Do you think he stays a starter next year, or do you think they're trying to go get someone?
No, I think he's the starter.
You think he's done enough?
Yeah, because they already pretty much moved on from Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah.
And Will Levis is young enough. He's a rookie, and you get to ride your rookie contract for 2 or 3 years, especially because the expectation isn't for the Titans to go to the playoffs next year. It's just to have a step forward from this.
Right.
So
okay. Yeah, and if they get 3 or 4 more wins, it's looking pretty good for them.
They're a playoff team, possibly. And then also, you get that cheap contract with Will Levis. Will gets to be cheap because you got him later in the draft.
Yeah,
you're not even paying first-round QB. Yeah.
And I'll say to make the I don't think they make the playoffs, but they have an outside shot.
Yeah. Not this year, but next year they could shake something up.
I wouldn't be surprised because the Bengals are all but done. Chargers might be done. Raiders might be done. Broncos are surging. We'll talk about them in a little bit. It'll be interesting. These last games are gonna be interesting, especially for the 7, 8, 9 seed. What's the next game, my guy?
We're looking at Bucks Colts.
Ooh.
Gardner Minshew leads the way.
Minshew mania.
Minshew mania in full effect.
Fuck yeah. We love Minshew mania, and we're glad the Bucks lost because I hate Baker.
Fuck, man.
Yeah, that too, but fuck Baker. I hate Baker. I don't know why, but I hate him.
The Bucks are so close to being in playoff contention.
In that division, I mean, yeah, it's crazy.
They might get home field advantage, bro.
Dude, if you win that division and go 9-8, that's wild to me. Being
they don't even need to go 9-8, bro. Technically, all they need to be is 6x. They only need to be 6-11 at this juncture.
Okay, you're not wrong, actually. With that weak ass division, so they could go just have
6-11.
They could just have 6 wins.
Yeah,
and then be the 4th seed,
7 or 8, but
and have that home field advantage for that first game. How wild is that, dude? That's crazy.
insanity.
I don't think they do it. Baker had himself a decent game, 20 of 30, 199 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Rachaad White had a very good game, 15 carries, 100 yards. And then Mike Evans, if you started him, you're very happy with 6 receptions, 70 yards, and 2 touchdowns. That's a game. Do you think he's an every week start?
Obviously.
Okay, just making sure. Chris Godwin, 3 catches, 45 yards. And then K. Dotton, which is starting to come on a little bit more as the weeks have gone on, 4 catches, 45 yards. So he's been doing pretty good. Let's see, Gardner Minshew, 24-41, no touchdowns, but interception. Had 251 yards. So he didn't do great with 2 turnovers. Only one of them being lost because the fumble was recovered by them. But he did well enough. He managed the game just like you needed him to. You didn't even do anything spectacular because you have Jonathan Taylor in that backfield. And you have Zach Moss, which I think is pretty serviceable running back as well.
Yeah, 100%.
One of the better handcuffs.
Zach Moss proved when JT was down that he's worth value, you know?
Yeah. And he's keeping it.
And he still got 2 receptions, you know, like he still had 70 yards on the day. You know, he was worth 9 points, you know, wide receiver or flex 2 spot type number. And I think he's consistent there. But yeah, you know, Baker proved that, like, I think he's still super flex valuable in 2 QB leagues. I definitely think that he's still worth a good amount in that. This next game coming up, New York Giants versus your New England Patriots.
I don't want to talk about that.
Okay, we could skip it if you want.
I'm just playing.
I get it. I get it. There's games like that.
Bro. First half, they had
a high-scoring game.
First half, they had Mac Jones playing like dog. And then next half, they had Bailey Zapp playing like dog. At this point, they just need to keep losing so they can get that number 2 pick and draft a quarterback. Anyone. I don't really care who, but anyone.
I want to see Bailey Zappi just lead one game front to back. That's it.
At this point, it's not going to happen. Unfortunately, because both teams look pathetic.
They did. It was bad. It was really bad.
I mean, the Patriots defense played pretty decent, but again, they weren't really going against anyone. They held Saquon to only 46 yards, which is pretty good, I would say. But Jalen Hyatt had 5 receptions for 109 yards, so I don't really know.
I mean, like, the remaining games they have on their schedule, they might win a few. They got the Chargers.
Might win that.
At home.
Probably won't.
Then they go to Pittsburgh.
Gonna lose that.
Pittsburgh game. They host the Chiefs.
Gonna lose that.
Going to the Broncos.
Gonna lose that with the way the Broncos are playing.
Going to the Bills.
Gonna maybe win that. The Bills have been playing.
And then host the Jets.
They might win that. There's a solid chance. But Aaron Rodgers also might be back by then, so I don't really know.
So, like, how many wins are you giving them throughout the run of the season, bro?
1.
One.
1 win. I guess it's my time to be a salty, sad fan. I think it's just my time.
I understand. As a Steelers fan, I understand.
I appreciate you for understanding.
Yeah,
because I was used to 20 years of winning, and now I get losses, and it just makes me sad. And I understand other fans now.
Yeah, because the last time the Steelers had a losing season. Yeah,
I get it. There's really no one of note on fantasy wise. So, I mean, the 2 best players on the field were Rhamondre Stevenson for the Patriots, 21 carries, 98 yards, and a touchdown.
Tommy DeVito.
And then Jalen Hyatt, 5 catches, 109 yards. Why Tommy DeVito?
Tommy DeVito's coming into his own as a valuable QB2.
Maybe.
Bro, he's looking pretty good.
Over the
last week.
Past 3 games. 2 games, really,
yeah.
he has. Yeah.
Last 3 games, even.
So are you comfortably starting him in Superflex?
Yeah.
Okay.
Where would you over him?
Where would you rank him?
About 20th.
20th. I mean, yeah, that's serviceable, especially in Superflex leagues. If you got 10 people.
Yeah.
Even if you got 12 people, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay. I retract my angst. I support this conclusion. I support this conclusion now because I could see 20th, right? Because they have they don't really have a bunch of tough teams ahead of them.
Yeah.
On the schedule. I'm actually about to pull their Giants schedule up real quick. Yeah, so they got.
What happens if Tommy DeVito just balls out though? Do you just ride Tommy DeVito as the hot hand and not draft a QB if you're the Giants?
I don't think the Giants are drafting one either way. I think.
Yeah.
I mean, how can you with how much money you're paying Daniel Jones? How do you justify that?
Probably trade Daniel Jones.
You could trade him, or you could just have a baller of a backup in Tommy DeVito. Or you have a very, very expensive backup in Daniel Jones.
That might be the play.
I mean, if he wins out, because he's going against the Packers, the Saints, the Eagles, the Rams, and then the Eagles again. Mm-hmm. So if he won out, they'd be 10-8. No, 9-8. Yeah.
9-8. Yeah.
So like, I don't know how you don't at least give him the shot at competing in training camp.
Yeah.
But I still think it'd be Daniel Jones just because the Giants organization feels like they have to start him with how much money they're paying Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
Which is an absurd amount of money for him. That had one.
It was an idiot decision.
Yeah, and he had one good year. I don't know if I would say good, right? But he had a solid year for a quarterback and then got the bag. But that's also the market that we are in for quarterbacks in the league right now.
Yeah.
Because teams would rather pay that $40+ million than try and just draft a new one or sign a new one and risk it.
There's no reason to.
Yeah, and now that they fucked around and found out with Daniel Jones this year. He's got that contract-itis.
Would you rather have Daniel Jones or Deshaun Watson?
Daniel Jones.
Me too.
Daniel Jones. It's not close for me.
Same. I'd rather have Daniel Jones too. At least he's a character guy too.
Yeah. And then, from a contractor perspective, at least Daniel Jones' contract isn't fully guaranteed either.
100%.
Like Deshaun is, So I don't know.
So
that's a tough one. And
this
honestly, I hope the Patriots
Sorry.
keep losing. That's all.
Me too. I do too. I want to see him with the high traffic.
I want to see him have that. I want to see him pushing that number 1 draft pick.
It'd be cool.
Because
it'd be cool to see the Patriots this bad.
It's not cool, okay? It's not cool for me. It's very sad and breaks my heart. Okay? So I hate you for saying that. But anyways, I digress.
Bro, as a Steelers fan, I really understand having those losing seasons.
Yeah, okay, shut up. Anyways.
They've had 2 in my lifetime.
Okay, so let me ask you this. If the Patriots get that top whatever pick, right? So it looks like they're going to have a top 3 pick right now. What quarterback do you think they should draft?
Man.
Because I think it's obvious they need a quarterback.
Yeah.
More than anything at the moment.
With them drafting so high, maybe not even take a quarterback because you got JJ in the 2nd round that should be available. And I think he's a first-round talent QB in most drafts. And if you can get a guy like Marvin Harrison, I'm still high on Kool-Aid McKinstry.
Mm-hmm.
I like Kool-Aid McKinstry a lot. And getting that lockdown duo at quarterback, that'd be kind of nutty. And that also give you trade back potential because you could probably get Kool-Aid around 11 or 12. You know,
that's true.
It's almost like I feel like the Patriots aren't going to draft a quarterback immediately, especially with certain talent that might be available on the board. Especially if you can get a guy like Joe Alt from Notre Dame, and you might be able to trade back and get additional value for it. And God forbid they trade back if they're able to get a guy like Bo Nix.
Yeah, because right now they're projected at number three pick.
Yeah, they trade that number 3 back, and then they get a guy like Bo Nix that's really good in a system that's similar to how New England runs their offense, actually.
I wouldn't be surprised if they trade back
in multiple systems. Yeah, it makes sense.
I wouldn't be surprised if they trade back to like the middle of the first, something where they love to draft, it seems like, and then get extra picks either, like in the second round or picks next year as well, and then push that can down the road for the quarterback spot.
Yeah, because like you still have a cheap enough contract with Mac Jones and Bailey Zapp, and it's not like you got Matthew Judon. Sure, you're probably not going to keep him for much longer, but like a guy like Christian Gonzalez, he's coming off his first season. Some of your anchor pieces are younger guys, and go ahead and take advantage of that time to rebuild and build it efficiently.
It'd be nice. I think if they did, it'd probably be what I would love for them to do is draft Marvin Harrison and then draft a quarterback in the second round. That'd be ideal.
Like JJ.
Not even necessarily JJ, but just I could.
Do you think Penix should be there in the second round?
I think he could be.
I think there's a chance.
I think
if you had to pick a quarterback for the Patriots, who do you take?
I really love Bo Nix.
I love Bo Nix too.
I really love Bo Nix. What
about Kirk Cousins?
Part of me wants Bo Nix at that spot, but also if they can get Kirk Cousins, swipe him in free agency. I don't hate that.
Yeah.
I don't hate that on like a 2-year deal. But also at the same time, the Patriots might not want to pay Kirk Cousins that $30 to $35 million contract that he wants.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't think it's likely, but I would love to see Kirk Cousins on the Patriots. I think it's at this point potentially more likely he just stays with the Vikings. And then the Patriots are going to be forced to pivot through the draft Marvin Harrison, and then kick the can down the road to the second round. That's what I would love to see.
You think Marvin Harrison will be there at 3?
I hope to God he is. But he shouldn't be.
Yeah.
He shouldn't. As it stands right now, the Cardinals or the Bears should take him at 1 and 2 respectively. But I don't think they're going to. I also think it's possible.
Who do you think the Cards take?
I think the Cardinals could take. I wouldn't be surprised if they take Latu from UCLA, defensive end.
Okay.
I think he's a really nice player. I wouldn't be surprised if they take someone like Brian Thomas from LSU as a wide receiver. At that spot, because they also need wide receiver.
But not Marvin Harrison?
No, because I'm assuming he's not there and that the Bears take him. That's what I'm going off of right now. Right? Because they shouldn't take someone like Caleb Williams or Drake May at number 1. I'm assuming the Bears take Marvin Harrison because that's what they should do.
Yeah.
But if the Bears, for whatever reason, trade back or don't trade for him, or not trade for him, but draft him, then the Cardinals should take Marvin Harrison. And the Cardinals don't, and the Patriots should. But Marvin Harrison should not be there at 3. Which
if
is
Marvin
why
Harrison falls to 3, do you think the Patriots take him? Yes or no?
Yes.
You think they take him?
Yes, but it's also possible the Patriots end up with the number 1 pick.
You think they trade up?
No, I think it's possible the Panthers win 2 games and the Patriots lose out. which would then put him at number one.
That's possible.
I mean, 1, 2, and 3, really even 4 and 5 are kind of up in the air.
Yeah.
Right. But I think that top 5 is kind of locked in. Really, the top 3 is kind of locked in at the moment.
A team that we were thinking about was going to be in that top 5 pick discussion just 5 weeks ago. They got scored on 70-20 by the Dolphins. And then all of a sudden, they figure out a way to let's ride. They go ahead and take care of business at home in Mile High. It was all the Cleveland Browns.
It was all because of that. I think it was the offensive tackle video they showed me where he just says, "I'm just tired of losing. I'm just tired of losing."
Yeah, bro.
It was him.
Yeah, I said at that point.
He turned the team around. Confirmed.
Yeah. Like, I was saying it back then, when a team is like this, they go down 2 paths. They either turn it around and they go on a hot streak that you cannot stop, or they go to the ditches and they just let themselves die. The Broncos took the high road.
They're hot.
Mile High Road, should I say.
Very fitting
and
for the name of this.
Russell Wilson, he put on a good show, but really this was just a balanced offensive performance, just taking care of business, and really this was a defensive win. This is the type of win where, like, you look back at it and you're like, this is where we find out that the Broncos defense is real.
How much an effect do you think Dorian Thompson-Robinson being out had on the Browns?
Significant-ish.
Do you think they would have won with him?
No. I think they would have got a little bit closer, maybe 21.
Okay.
But not like, I don't think they get the win. They might have brought the score down to 3 points even because of how they were able to hold the possession. But, like PJ Walker getting sacked 4 times didn't no one any favors. Jerome Ford had the average of 7.2 yards per carry, and he was grinding, but they just didn't give him the ball enough. And, they got behind early. The Broncos took advantage of position on the field, and, they won because of it. Getting 3 fumble recoveries, you're going to win a game when you have a turnover margin of 3-1. You're going to win a lot of games like that, especially in this type of fashion where, the Broncos defense was able to lock down, I think Broncos defense got them this win, and that was why it was such a marginal victory, Yeah,
because Russell Wilson did enough, right? The running attack in total had 40 carries for 169 yards and 2 touchdowns. So they ran the ball fairly effectively because they had 4.3 yards per carry. And then receiving the ball, I mean, really nothing, right? Because if you started Russell Wilson or any of the receivers from the Broncos, you're not entirely happy, but it was a good victory for the Broncos overall, team-wise. Because they managed the ball well on offense, and then they also got stops and played well on defense. So it was a good overall team win for them.
I concur.
And then,
I think it really does come down to, there's a couple stats that are going to get overlooked on this game. Javonte Williams, he had 6 targets. One of them was a bomb. I think Javonte Williams is a sleeper pick going into these next couple weeks.
Okay.
Just I wouldn't be surprised to see top RB5 numbers from Javonte Williams just because of his receiving production.
Like the rest of the season?
Yeah.
Okay. How confident are you in that?
60%.
So you'd be pretty much comfortable starting him the rest of the year?
Yeah.
Kind of thing?
Yeah.
Okay. I dig it. I mean,
he's a guy that might be available on some waivers too.
Yeah, or you might be able to get him for the low before he starts exploding towards the end of the year.
He's only rostered by 88.5% of teams according to ESPN. And he's ranked 31st position-wise coming off a mediocre game. I think this is the time to buy in on Javonte Williams, and I think that we're going to see him finally explode, especially in Dynasty.
Right. So pick him up if you can. And if your trade deadline has him, try and trade for him. Because this might be the cheapest you can get him. Because if he does explode, the rest of the year, his price is just going to
There's
soar.
No coming back.
His price is just going to soar in the offseason. And it's going to be incredibly hard to actually trade for him. You're going to have to give up way too much.
Yep. 100%.
What about Jerome Ford and Kareem Hunt? How comfortable are you starting them?
I should be a lot more comfortable, but they're just not getting the touches.
Right. Yeah, I mean, 9 and 7, it's not a lot.
Yeah, 4 receptions from Jerome Ford, kind of saving his day. Making it so it wasn't just abysmal.
But on 7 targets too, as well.
Yeah, I start Jerome Ford, Kareem Hunt as an extreme flex.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of where I'm at.
Look, a little desperation play. Yeah, basically. I can jive with that. What about PJ Walker? If he's the quarterback going forward, would you be willing to super flex? No, staying away.
Walk away. Yeah.
Droppable or rosterable?
Yeah. Droppable.
That's kind of where I'm at with him. Until I actually see something from either one of the quarterbacks, I'm not really rostering them. I'm just going to do
they got a good Rams defense coming up. They got a good Jags defense coming up. Mm-hmm. They got a Bears defense that they should be able to crush, but also, I wouldn't be surprised if that's the type of game that they just run the ball a ton. Texans, they're probably going to get crushed. Jets, they're probably going to get crushed realistically, especially if Aaron Rodgers is back. And then Bengals, the Bengals have a sneaky good defensive line, and I don't trust PJ Walker against it.
Yeah, and this could be the Browns' downfall of the season. We could see them realistically lose out and finish 7-10. Mm-hmm. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibilities.
Yeah.
Now, will it happen? Probably not.
They're probably going to be a 9-win team.
Yeah, so I could see them getting a couple more, 2 to 3 more wins, going about 500 the rest of the season.
Yep, that's where I put them.
But that might be good enough for a playoff berth.
It might be. You want to talk about teams that are floating right around 500? Los Angeles Rams, go and give Arizona a visit and say, hey, kiddo, calm down, go play some Call of Duty. Matthew Stafford goes ahead and takes Kyler Murray to school, 229 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception, no sacks.
Mm-hmm.
Kyler went ahead and put up 256 touchdown, no interceptions, 4 sacks, and also had 1 TD on the ground. So 2 TDs on the day.
I wish I started Matthew Stafford this week, but I didn't. I rode with Sam Howell over him.
How do you feel about this development in Kyren Williams and Royce Freeman in the backfield for the Rams?
I love it. I think it's what the Rams need. It's one of the biggest things they're missing was a run game, and they seem to have found it. I just hope they continue giving both of them some work because I think they both deserve it. All right, Kyren Williams, 16 carries, 143 yards. Royce Freeman, 13 carries, 77 yards, and a touchdown. Why not rely on them? Why not give them 30 carries combined a game? Mm-hmm. Or at least 20 combined. Because then that takes a lot of pressure off Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford was efficient.
It sets up Matthew Stafford for play action. And when you got a sheriff type quarterback, play action is their best friend.
Yeah, and don't forget Kyren Williams had 6 catches for 61 yards and 2 touchdowns. So if you started him this week, you're fucking ecstatic. You're really, really happy about that.
Yeah, 36 points.
And Stafford plays, I think, the best when he has
after 100-point bonus.
I think Stafford plays the best when he has a good run game behind him, where it takes off some of the pressure, and he's not forced to throw 45 times a game, where he can throw just 30 times and then run the ball also 30 times. Right, I think that makes a massive difference for quarterbacks, and we don't see teams always stick to the run like they should. A lot of teams just abandon the run super quick and super early, and it just throws them off. So you 100%. Hate to see it. Are you worried about Kyler Murray, or is he someone you'd be okay starting?
Super flex only. Okay. But I don't know if the problem is Kyler. Do
you think it's weapon wise?
Well, yeah, who's he passing to, man? The offensive line's pretty mediocre.
I mean, Marquise Brown and Trey McBride is his two best weapons.
Like, we're so high on Joshua Dobbs. Remember, Joshua Dobbs only claimed 1 win with the Cardinals.
Right.
You know, like, Joshua Dobbs, we were clamoring about how good he was playing, but
Yeah,
they still only got 1 win. It feels like the expectation for Kyler is different than it is for Joshua Dobbs. It's like Kyler, if he's not winning games, it's not good enough. But Joshua Dobbs, he got a pass because, you know, he's coming off the bench and he's just this nobody that is finally getting his graces in the league.
Well,
you know,
I mean,
why
I think
doesn't Kyler get the same respect?
Contract.
Sure.
I think that's what it comes down to purely. It's just because of the money aspect.
That's fair.
And it's not really fair to have that expectation, but I mean, it comes with it, right? Because we saw that also with Justin Herbert before the season, where a lot of people were saying for that contract to be worth it, he has to get to the chip. He has to get to the Super Bowl or at least make the playoffs. And it looks like they're not even going to do that. So I think it really does come down to the contract, and Kyler's getting paid a lot more than Joshua Dobbs is. You know, and you could argue whether it's fair or not, and some may say it is, some may say it's not, but I think that's just the reality of the situation.
I agree.
You know,
so talking about highly paid quarterbacks, we go and visit Kansas City Raiders. Kansas City goes ahead and sticks it to the Raiders. I had the Raiders winning this. I thought that, you know, Raiders might be able to take advantage of the Chiefs' cold streak, shake things up a little bit. I was hoping in my heart of hearts that was true. Patrick Mahomes proved me wrong for betting against him once again. Aiden McConnell had himself a decent day. Josh Jacobs had himself a really good day. You know, we're starting to see that Josh Jacobs season that I was talking about last week.
Yeah.
21 points on the ground. If you get a 100-point bonus, 26 points total. So, you know, we're looking at a pretty good performance. Travis Kelce looked like Travis Kelce. Rashee Rice was your pick for the week as the Chiefs wide receiver. That's the third week in a row that he's been extremely productive.
Yep.
In his last 5 weeks, he had one game against the Dolphins, 2 for 2, 17 yards. Against the Eagles, he was 4 out of 5, 42 yards. But against Denver, 4 out of 5, 56 yards. Chargers, 5 for 6, 60 yards and a touchdown. You know, this was his best game for sure, but I think we're seeing an indication that Rashee Rice is a safe start at least flags.
So you'd be pretty comfortable putting him in that spot. No complaints.
We're seeing a basement of 10 points, realistically, other than that 1 week against. Well, even against the Dolphins, he had a touchdown. So, you know, 2 catches, 17 yards, that's 9 points. Yeah. If your basement is 9 points over 5 weeks, then yeah, you definitely need to be putting him in your flex.
That's not bad. So do you think this is like things to come for Josh Jacobs? Do you think he's only going to get better or stay consistent at this level?
I think he's going to be consistent or better.
Okay.
I'm about 80% sure of it.
So like 20 points plus kind of thing?
Mm-hmm.
I want to argue about that. Now, what do you think about Aiden O'Connell? Because he had himself a pretty good game. They just couldn't really get anything sustained on offense, it seemed like.
I think he's a good start if you have to, you know, on a bye week, especially with Lamar Jackson being out this week because of his bye. You know, if you had Joe Burrow as your quarterback, you know, if you can pick up Aiden O'Connell at this juncture off waiver, I would definitely do that to cover for injuries and everything.
Oh, yeah, that's what I do.
I think he could cover up, and I think that he could put up top 12 QB numbers at his best. I think he'd be QB 10. As worst, I think he's QB 19. So, like, even worst case scenario, he's still solid.
Yeah, because he had a solid day. He was efficient. He had 250 yards and a touchdown, no turnovers. You know, that's
only once.
Yeah, that's about what you can ask for from him.
Yep.
They just couldn't score points. You know, and then Patrick Mahomes, like you said, did Patrick Mahomes things. He did well. 298 yards, 2 touchdowns, no turnovers. Isaiah Pacheco, 15 carries, 55 yards, 2 touchdowns. Nothing great, nothing fantastic. but he had himself a good fantasy day. Do you think he's worth starting most weeks?
Yeah, I think Pacheco's been a lock since week 8.
Okay. Week 8. Where would you rank him?
Right now?
Yeah. Or at least the rest of the season. Rest of the season.
For the rest of the season, I'd say RB7.
Ooh. Spicy.
He's the only back that's going to be getting a full workload, other than a guy like Josh Jacobs or Derrick Henry. And Derrick Henry might not even be getting a full workload. You know, name another back in the NFL that's getting a full workload like Pacheco is.
CMC.
Okay. Another one.
DeAndre Swift.
Okay. Name another one.
One could argue David Montgomery.
You could argue. And maybe name another.
Possibly Rhamondre Stevenson.
Okay. Yeah. That's pretty good company to be a part of, huh?
Mediocre at best. I'm just playing. But I want to ask you about this because it's been pretty crazy to me with all the hype around CEH when he came out because he went to the Chiefs, and it's just been a straight downfall. Do you think they'll release him, or do you think they're going to hold on to him? How do you see his future?
I don't know, man. It's tough. Like, he's talented enough where you want to keep him.
Right.
He shows glimpses.
Most players do.
You know, he's a good enough guy to keep on your roster, and he's cheap.
Yeah, especially after when his contract's up, I believe next year.
Yeah, like I think he'll end up going to a team on a 1-year deal. I don't think he stays with the Chiefs, but I think he goes to a team that might be like a Panthers type team that might need a running back. Maybe the Cardinals needed one at that time. And he might have a resurgence for a year or two, but I don't think he ends up staying on the Chiefs now.
So you don't think Miles Sanders is the answer for the Panthers?
In 2 years, probably not.
Fair.
You know, like that's kind of where I'm at with CEH.
I don't think Miles Sanders was the answer regardless.
Yeah.
I don't think they should have ever signed him.
I don't think so either, but like for sure not in 2 years.
Right. Guaranteed.
Yeah.
Say because like I don't know. What do you do with this Chiefs receiving room though? Are you kind of just betting on Travis Kelce and Rashid Rice?
Yeah. That's
essentially. And then end the story and the conversation after that.
Yeah, I don't think there's much to talk about after that. Like Sky Moore, I've been trying to rally behind, but he's just not putting up the numbers that I'm hoping he would.
Yeah, he's kind of burning you.
Yeah.
So I remember, I believe you were very high on him before the season started. And then he kind of
should be great.
It's kind of like Gabe Davis, right? A lot of people love Gabe Davis and was convinced he was going to explode this year, but he hasn't done that either. So it's kind of a similar situation. What about the Vegas?
Speaking of Gabe Davis,
what about Vegas though?
And what about Vegas?
Room. Yeah, in their receiving room.
I'm not a fan of it. I mean, Jacoby Myers is their best talent. You know, Devontae Adams, I feel like isn't Devontae Adams' form anymore, or at least while he's got black and silver on. Like, I don't feel like he's the same Devontae Adams as we've seen.
So, do you think he needs to leave them?
I think a change of scenery would be best for Adams because Jacoby Myers has been looking better than Devontae Adams has.
True. Where would you think he'd go then, or where do you think he should?
The Jets.
The Patriots. Mm-hmm. The Patriots.
Who has Aaron Rodgers?
Not the Jets. Okay, maybe the Jets.
I hate to tell you, buddy. I hate to tell you, buddy.
Maybe the Jets. I mean, it was rumored that Aaron Rodgers was trying to get him to go after Devontae, but it seemed they couldn't swing it.
Well, yeah.
I'm not surprised.
His contract's coming to an end, though.
And Rodgers got 1 year left on his deal, so I wouldn't be surprised if Rodgers tries and make that push. And having Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson opposite of each other, I think would be scary for that team. And then have Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook running the rock.
Yeah.
I mean, I already love their team with Aaron Rodgers at the helm before the season started because I thought they had a lot of potential.
I mean, they have a potential out at 2025 with Devontae Adams.
Right.
So it's like they could pitch out his contract and the Jets get the potential out on the contract.
Yeah, so maybe that's something we see develop in the offseason, though, as well.
Yeah, I really wouldn't be surprised.
I would love that to happen because I don't love the Jets, but I love their team and what they got cooking over there.
Speaking of Gabe Davis, you mentioned him earlier. Philadelphia Eagles host the Buffalo Bills. Go to 10-1 in a close matchup, 37-34.
He hates the coin toss.
Proving he has that clutch gene.
Josh Allen, hates the coin toss. He's like 0-7 in his career in overtime.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you still hold firm that I can't remember what you called him at the beginning of the season, but that he'd be like a bottom 10 or outside the top 10 quarterback wise?
Yeah.
Do you still hold firm on that?
I hold true on that. Yeah. Like, I don't care fantasy wise. The dude has 3,200 yards, 24 touchdowns, 13 picks.
Mm-hmm.
He has a good QBR, but like 6-6 is the Bills' record, and a big reason is because of him. He's projected at this point in the season to have over 4,500 yards, 34 touchdowns, 18 picks. But that 18 picks is what's haunting him.
That's a lot.
That is a lot. And, a completion percentage of 68.1, we're talking about Josh Allen being this elite quarterback. This isn't elite production, especially with the interception rate.
No, not at all. You're expecting, closer to like 7 to 8 interceptions on the season.
And, Josh Allen I think single-handedly has cost the Bills a few games this season.
Oh, for sure.
The Bills shouldn't have lost to the Patriots. And I think that was a big reason because of Josh Allen. He didn't really have that great of a game. He had 265 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. But it was a critical interception.
Mm-hmm.
Like...
Yeah, in the games that they've lost, and especially when he's done bad, is you get pressure on Allen, and he makes mistakes. It seems like he can't handle that pressure.
To him at the beginning of the season.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Like the Broncos got in his face. The Bengals took care of business. They shut him down pretty well.
Yes, he's proved time and time again.
All that.
I think he's, yeah.
And I think Stephon Diggs is. I think Stephon Diggs is way better than people realize how good he is.
Stephon Diggs, and I've been saying this for a while, is when he leaves, Josh Allen is going to be even worse. I think he made that team, and he made Josh Allen. Because without him, I don't think we see or talk about Josh Allen the way people have talked about him.
Not at all. No. And what happens if Stephon Diggs goes to the Cowboys?
That'd be a crazy team. Put him opposite CeeDee Lamb and Brandon Cooks. Oh, my God. I think that'd be nutty. And
that'd be nutty.
And I think the Cowboys possibly become Super Bowl contenders, or at least one of the favorites at that point. And then the Bills are going to be a bottom 10 team in the league.
Yeah. I think Stephon Diggs makes that offense.
No, he does. 100%. How do you feel about James Cook? 16 carries, 43 yards.
He had a rough game, but, he had 6 receptions, so he's able to call back a bit. He had 100 yards from scrimmage, so if you have that bonus, that's an extra 5 points. No TDs, but, if you had that bonus, he's worth 21 points.
Mm-hmm. Not a good game. You're happy with that. So if you started him, you're happy. If you started Gabe Davis on his what seemed to be lone good game
of the season.
Yeah, 6 receptions, 105 yards, and a touchdown. But he had 12 targets, so it's like 50% catch rate on the face of it. So it really makes you wonder how was the accuracy of those throws. How many of them were catchable? Maybe only a couple more.
Two, I would say were catchable. Maybe 3, but the rest of them I would say were unrealistically catchable.
Yeah. So
from what I've seen.
Yeah, and I watched a little bit of the game, mainly the overtime, but I would kind of come to the same conclusion.
Yeah.
And I think really on this offense, the only weak person you can really start every week comfortably is Stephon Diggs. And then you could argue Josh Allen. Probably Josh Allen. I would start him anyways because he had 4 touchdowns. He gets those touchdowns. And has that rushing upside, which you can't really argue with for fantasy purposes. Having that quarterback that can throw, get you that 300-yard bonus plus, a couple touchdowns, and then someone can carry the ball for, 50 yards and maybe a touchdown. That's killer, especially when we're creeping into playoff times for fantasy leagues.
Yeah.
That shit is huge. Right. So Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, really the only 2 people I'm targeting every week. And then from the Eagles side of the ball, Jalen Hurts had himself a pretty good game. 200 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Not great, but he played good. He played well. He didn't turn the ball over too much. DeAndre Swift, another good game. 14 carries, 80 yards, no touchdowns, but he's the focal point in that rushing attack. They're going to feed him the rock. He's doing this year what people thought he would do with the Lions, but he couldn't just get it together.
Yeah.
But
now he is.
Now he is indeed. And
with the Philadelphia Bulldogs.
I'm kind of sad because I had the chance to trade for him, but I didn't think he'd do quite this well. So I'm kind of kicking myself for that. But as such, is fantasy football. Devontae Smith, though, I was so happy I started him because I was looking at it and he had like 6 catches, 98 yards. And I was like, please, God, get over the 100-yard bonus. And he did with the touchdown catch.
He did.
My prayers were answered. I was so happy. But then A.J. Brown, you thought he would do well, but 5 catches, 37 yards, and a touchdown. But that was just the way the game was flowing. They didn't really throw a ton, or at least what we're used to seeing them throw. Nor was Jalen Hurts as efficient as we have seen in the past. Right? So that's just kind of a byproduct of the game. Definitely a one-off. Definitely someone you want to start every week.
Obviously.
And if you choose between Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown, it's clearly A.J. Brown. I think with an argument to be made for Devontae Smith to be in like the flex spot. Most weeks.
I agree completely.
Most weeks
Devontae
you could get
Smith
10 points.
deserves a flex start.
Yeah, most
Guaranteed.
weeks you can get 10 points out of him. I think it's kind of his basement. And then his ceiling this year has kind of been what he did this week. Getting that 25
Which
points.
Is what? Yeah, I was about to say 25, 26. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you're happy with that? I'm happy with that.
100%.
That's someone you want every week.
15 points on average, realistically, is what I see from A.J. Brown moving forward.
Yeah. And that's not going to be hard because they don't really have a tough schedule, right? But they have the 49ers, Cowboys, Seahawks, Giants, Cardinals, Giants again. Right, so 49ers and Cowboys look like they might be shootouts, which then equals fantasy points. So you're going to be starting like Jalen Hurts, DeAndre Swift, A.J. Brown, and Devontae Smith.
Everybody. Bring the cavalry.
Yeah, anyone you can get the hands on for both sides of the ball for both those games. I think you start. I think 100%. They're going to be good games and they're going to be high scoring. 49ers game we'll talk about that more tomorrow, but I think that might kind of determine the number 1 seed. At least get not really off the hand, but it'll give the 49ers a fighting shot at the number 1 seed, at the very least. I'm thinking. What's the name? Ravens, Chargers. All right, let's get into our next game. Oh, I'm so excited for this one because I hate the Chargers.
This is a good one.
I'm so excited. I hate the Chargers, and let me tell you, I was so excited when they lost. Because it's not that I really like the Ravens that much more. I just like seeing the Chargers fail because of that Patriots-Chargers rivalry, especially from years ago when they had Phillip Rivers and LaDainian Tomlinson, and they met for like 3 years in the AFC Championship game, even the divisional round, and the Patriots won every time. And that just brings back joy. Every time the Chargers lose, it brings them back to those moments where the Patriots won in the playoffs. Now, let's get into a little bit of little stats here. It wasn't really a super stat heavy game. The Ravens won 20-10. The Ravens looked like they were in full control the whole time. Lamar Jackson, 18 of 32, 177 yards and a touchdown. So it wasn't super efficient through the air, but he did enough through the air to give him the win. But then he also had 11 carries for 39 yards. Still 1 touchdown on the day. But if you started him, you're pretty happy because he got you about 15 points. And then rushing the ball as a team, the Ravens did well because they had 35 carries for 197 yards. But individually, no one really stands out to you. Zay Flowers had that 1 carry for 37 yards and a touchdown. So if you started him, combined that with his receiving work, when he had 5 catches for 25 yards in that touchdown, had a pretty good fantasy day. But other than that, no Baltimore rusher had really a standout day. No, and that was to be expected because
Keaton Mitchell's good. Average was insane.
Yeah, 7.1 yards. So I thought they would give him more carries. I was hoping that he would. But as a whole, I mean, the Baltimore rushing attack was just pretty dominant, right? Averaging 5.6 yards carry as a whole. And the Chargers didn't really look like them know what to do with that. You know, and then from 100%. From the Chargers side of the ball, Justin Herbert had 29 and 44, 217 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Not good, not great. You know, he did, I would say, just above.
They didn't run the ball enough.
No,
but this circles back to what I've been saying about this Ravens defense this whole season. Roquan Smith, Patrick Queen.
Mm-hmm.
Makes it so you can't run the fucking ball and gets you one-dimensional very quickly. And what happens when you get a team one-dimensional? You get 7 pass deflections, 9 QB hits, 3 sacks, 5 tackles for a loss, and 1 pick. Like, that's how you do that. You had that scary middle linebacker core. You shut teams out like they did against the Chargers.
Yep, and in that game, you saw Justin Herbert having to roll out a lot and then underthrowing the ball quite a bit or overthrowing the ball. And when he stayed in the pocket, the Ravens defensive line would get their hand up and affect the pass, right? Thus causing him to underthrow the ball, and he did that quite a bit. We saw it a lot. So credit to the Ravens defense because they played outstanding and held I would say, talented Chargers offense in check because they got a good quarterback, they got good receivers, and they got good running backs. They just couldn't get anything going. They couldn't not really hold the ball. They could get no traction. And that's been the story of the Chargers season. And that's why they're 4-7 at the moment. And that's why the Ravens are 9-3 because it goes back to what you said, their defense, and more specifically, those linebackers.
Yeah, I mean, I think you said the best just at the top of the section. The Ravens were in control the whole game, and that was it.
They scored first, and they kept the Chargers on their heels. They kept the Chargers off the field. You know, they kept that offense off. They forced Justin Herbert to make bad throws and bad reads, and it really screwed them in the end. They didn't know what to do. I mean, the only one that you're happy about starting is Keenan Allen, but he did Keenan Allen things with 14 receptions and 106 yards on 16 targets. You know, Gerald Everett did okay. He saved his fantasy day with that touchdown. You know, he had 4 receptions, 43 yards on 4 targets in the touchdown. So he got you 10.3 points almost. I think if they rushed the ball a little bit more and stuck to the run game more, it might be a little bit closer, but I think ultimately the Ravens still would have won the game personally.
100%. But I don't think that I think the Ravens were like kind of just controlling the tempo. They could have scored more.
They did very well at controlling the tempo, and that's all they needed to do. Right? They played a very Ravens-esque game.
Yeah.
They didn't make a lot of they didn't force a lot of turnovers, but they also didn't commit a lot of turnovers.
Yep.
But then they also controlled the middle of the field. Kind of go back to what you were
100%.
saying. And that's been the story of the Ravens, and I think it could carry them to the title game. I don't know if they'll win it, but I think their defense will be the reason why they make it that far, especially as we see them go against these tougher teams come playoff time.
Speaking of potential playoff teams, the Vikings, we were getting red hot on. Joshua Dobbs playing out of his mind, playing out of this world, should I say. And out of nowhere, has an explorer-like event. 1 touchdown, 4 interceptions, cost the Vikings the game. They didn't run the ball a lot. Justin Fields had a pretty average day. He went for almost 300 yards from scrimmage, no touchdowns, no picks. He did have 2 fumbles lost, so he had a Justin Fields-like day. DJ Moore had a pretty solid day, 11 receptions, 114 yards, 100-yard bonus. That's the extra 5 points, 10, 21, 26 points from DJ Moore. It seems like he keeps on getting those big scoring games without those TD receptions. TJ Hawkinson proven that he's still a top 3 tight end for fantasy. This was just an ugly game front to back. I didn't feel like there was very much. It felt like neither team wanted to win, if you want to be honest. When I was watching it, it just felt like both teams wanted to lose, and the team that wanted to lose harder lost.
But I mean, that's also what happens when you turn the ball over, like 6 times?
Total, yeah.
It's like you can't win a game like that, and you're not going to.
Nope.
Thankfully, this should have been a bigger blowout than it was. It should have been, like a 21-point win, at least for the Bears.
But the Bears are just that bad.
Yeah, they could not get anything going. They got those short chunk plays, but the Vikings forced the last 3 and outs, even with the 6 turnovers. So
yep.
It's, I don't know, man. This Bears team baffles me because they should be better than they are, especially with 6 turnovers forced in a game. I mean, if you start the Bears defense, you're fucking happy as shit.
Yeah.
You're happy as hell because that's a lot of points right there for defense. That's a 30-plus point game for the defense. But, I mean, Justin Fields didn't turn the ball over, so that's good. Because if he did, even 1 turnover is potentially a Vikings win.
Yep.
Even with 6 turnovers, and then he led them in rushing, 12 carries, 59 yards. And like you said, DJ Moore just seems to find a way to be fantasy relevant in this poor offense. And I can't remember what receiver said it, but it was said like 8 years ago. It's where Chicago is where receivers go to die. And DJ Moore seems to be defying that right now because he has been
trying his best.
He is, and he's been fantasy relevant where a lot of people didn't think he would be. I didn't think it would be because I didn't think that Justin Fields could sustain a top 12 receiver.
Me either.
And he surprisingly is. And I'm just still so baffled about it, dude.
So real quick, do you want to put your predictions in that you had at the beginning of the week?
No, it's okay. The week already passed.
Man. All right. Well, then I tallied up 14 points this week.
Because then I could just BS it. We'll see. I got every game right. There we go. We'll just roll with that.
Okay. Okay. We'll give you 14 points. That's fine.
Oh, thanks, man.
We'll say we rallied the same amount of points.
I'm cool with that.
All right.
Real quick though, based off of this past week, who would you put as like your waiver wire ad of the week? Or give me 3 names if you could.
Man.
Do you have
Keaton Mitchell?
Okay.
I think it's definitely one that I want to go ahead and go pick up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking Noah Brown, if he's still available. He should be coming back next week, so he might have gotten dropped. Let me double check what his availability is.
Yeah, I mean, Noah Brown's a good one because he exploded there for like 2-3 weeks. And CJ Stroud seems to be loving him in that offense and is giving him the opportunity to produce, and he is producing at a high level.
Yeah. Right now, he's only rostered by 37% of teams.
Yeah,
I think
pick him up.
way more valuable than that. And
he should be rostered
honestly,
in like 90% of leagues at least.
Yeah, he's had like 3 boom weeks. Just quietly, no one wants him.
Yeah, before he got injured, he was booming.
Yeah, and honestly, my last one is Jahan Dotson. He should be available, and I think as the season comes, I just like how the Commanders' schedule is playing out for the rest of the season. They got they got the Dolphins, which that's going to end up being a shootout. Sam Howell has proven that he can get the ball deep.
Yeah, I love Sam Howell.
There's going to be a receiver that benefits from it, and it's not always going to be Terry. They got the Dolphins, then they got the Rams. So 3 games that are all potentially shootouts, and they're going to be passing the ball a lot. Then you got Jets, 49ers, Cowboys. Like, tough defenses, sure, but it's going to be one of those things where they're going to be passing the ball a lot. Sam Howell might be a scarier start in these upcoming weeks, but his receivers are going to be getting a lot of yards.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, especially if you have Sam Howell, Jahan Dotson is definitely worth the pickup. Get that stack going. Because he is going to have those boom weeks. But I think, especially next year, I think he's going to be even better than this year. But for the rest of the year, I wouldn't be surprised if his basement is something like 10 points.
Me too. That's kind of where I have him.
Yeah, which is very valuable. So I definitely agree with Noah Brown and Jahan Dotson. Noah Brown would be easier. You might be able to trade for Jahan. But that might be something you want to wait out till next year. He might be a little cheaper as the time goes on, especially if he doesn't perform like we hope he's going to perform.
Yeah.
But I think Noah Brown.
I think he's going to.
But I think Noah Brown is just his price is just going to keep increasing.
Here's my hot take. Jahan Dotson will get 5 receptions and 50 yards every week throughout the season from here on out.
Damn. So the pecking order for you would be Terry McLaurin, Jahan, then Curtis.
Yep.
I don't know, man. You know what? I'll agree.
They spent a first-round pick on him.
I'll agree. Because Curtis Samuel has been too inconsistent for me to actually believe in him. So I think
that's where I'm at.
I think the Commanders need that person to step up outside of Scary Terry, and I think that could be Jahan.
Me too.
I think that'll be him. So I'm excited to watch the rest of the season because I love Sam Howell. I think he's the answer for the Redskins or the Commanders. Oops.
Me too.
So I guess we'll just have to see what happens.
Yeah, and here's a stat for you. It's projected for the end of the season that Jahan Dotson will be targeted at nearly 100 times with 60 receptions, and he's projected to get about 200 more yards. I think he'll perform above that just because of the lineup he has coming up.
So like 400 more?
350.
Respect.
Extra 15 receptions. I think that he'll be over 100 targets. I think he'll be around 75 receptions. 10 targets.
That's worth putting in your flex spot. That last flex, especially.
Yeah.
Especially, if you got someone that's on a bye week this week, right?
Yep.
Put him in your flex. Let him rip. Let him go. Free the man.
And I just like him more than Curtis Samuel personally. Like,
I think he is better.
I think now is the time that they finally start that full transition into that new Commanders offense.
I would agree. And I'm not surprised when it's going to happen because, like you said, they're going to start that full transition the rest of the year. And then I think into next year. Noah Brown. I love Noah Brown. And you kind of convinced me on Jahan. I think my third. Gosh. Honestly, Rashawn Johnson, if you can get him.
You want to know one that fell right out of the window for me?
What?
Javonte Williams.
Ooh.
He should be rostered in 100% of leagues, and he's only rostered in 88.5.
Ooh. He should be, but he's not. What do you think people are hesitant about?
He's had mediocre weeks.
Yeah,
he's a little bit touchdown reliant, but with his receptions going up, like we're seeing him consistently get like 3 receptions a game on average.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so he gets 3 receptions per game on average, and that's throughout the whole season. Just about on average, it's been 3 receptions per game, and that adds on. Let's go ahead and say he gets 20 yards on those 3 receptions, which is about the average he's been getting per game. He gets about 70 yards on the ground per game on average over these last 5 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Then all of a sudden, oh wow, now he's worth like 12 points at least, and he does go and get that touchdown or 2, which he's bound to with the production he's getting, the touches he's getting.
It's only a matter of time.
Yeah, like it's not unrealistic to be like, okay, his basement's 10 points, his ceiling's 24, and that's a flex worthy spot.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of how I feel about Roschon Johnson, even though he's having a down year, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think because he's doing bad because the Bears offense as a whole is doing so bad.
Yep.
But I think his time's going to come, and it's probably going to be next year. I was kind of thinking to be the later half of this year, but it's not looking like that's the case, and that's fine. He's only rostered in about 25% of the leagues. So if you have a taxi spot, like in Sleeper, for example, he's someone I would pick up with the quickness and throw him on that taxi spot and just let him sit there.
What about Michael Mayer?
Are you trying to rub salt in the wound? Is that what you're doing right now? I feel like that's what you're doing right now because you beat me to him.
I did? I didn't. No, I beat you to him. I'm
sorry. Still a little salty about that. Michael Mayer is intriguing.
He's only rostered on 6.5% of teams, so
he's an intriguing option. Like if you have 2 tight ends, he's someone I'd pick up just to have as a third. Just sit there and let's see what happens because that's kind of what you're doing with like the last 3 or 4 bench slots. You're kind of just picking up people you think have potential, and Michael Mayer is someone that has that potential. Right? He's had those games where he's looked good. Then he's had games where he doesn't really produce, but that's also due to lack of targets and lack of opportunity. So as I know I've said this before with players, but like as the year goes on, but more so into next year, he's going to have that bounce back campaign almost because there's not a lot of tight ends you see produce right off the bat. Right? It's just something that doesn't happen. There's outliers, of course, but it's not something you typically see. So he's someone you want to hold for, 2 or 3 years and see what happens because he could pay off and could be, produce like a Travis Kelce or George Kittle or Mark Andrews.
They spent almost a first-round pick on him, 35th overall pick. Like they're planning on him being an integral part of that offense.
And he could be.
He's proven that he's good.
Yeah. He's good. He's talented. He's big. He's good at blocking. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's no reason why he's not, and I think it's really just because. Well, I almost wanted to say Josh McDaniels, but I do almost think it was kind of Josh McDaniels because the offense didn't look good. The play calling was very suspect, but I think with this head coaching change, we're going to see things improve a little bit. And we're going to start seeing him get like that consistent 45-yard catches. Now we might not see a lot of yardage, but we might see like an end zone touchdown, when they're inside the 10 or the 5 or something like that.
Yeah, I could see that.
It's kind of where I'm at with him.
Middle of the field working tight end. That's exactly what Michael Mayer is.
That's where he excels. But that's not where the Raiders are using him.
With a guy like Aiden O'Connell, that'd be his best friend if they were using him correctly. And with a guy like Dameon Pierce, he's got a Super Bowl ring under his belt.
Right.
He's one of the Giants that took down that unbeatable Patriots team, and we're looking back at it and
salty.
Rubbing
the salt in the wound twice, my guy. That's messed up, man. Can't believe you done
the Raiders
this
right now.
Can't believe you done this.
Any closing remarks?
Yeah, I hope the Steelers keep losing.
Well, they won this week, so.
And I hope the Patriots keep losing.
I'm happy for you.
That's all I got. So sad.
Well, thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to drop a like, a subscribe, follow us on Facebook. Don't forget to throw me a follow on twitch.tv/information. Obviously, if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe. If you're listening on Spotify, go ahead and pin us. Make sure that you're catching all of our uploads live. Apple Music, Apple Pods. Make sure that you're keeping us followed up. Get that bell icon going. The whole 9. Follow us on Twitter. Everything. We want to indulge you in football all the time. So we appreciate you guys. And with that being said, hope you have a great night. And goodbye.
Good night.